Story 2. The last customer at Pump 6. I never planned on working the night shift. When I applied for the job at the gas station, I specifically asked for mornings. The manager smiled, told me that was fine. Then, 2 weeks later, handed me a schedule that had nothing but overnight shifts. From she p.m. until lil a.m. At first I hated it. Then I started to enjoy the silence. The station sat nearly 20 miles outside the nearest town, right beside an old 2-lane highway that most people avoided after the interstate opened. During the day, truckers and travelers still stopped for fuel, coffee, and cigarettes. But after midnight, sometimes an hour would pass without seeing a single car. The only sounds were the buzzing fluorescent lights, the refrigerator motors, and the wind pushing against the glass doors. It felt peaceful. Until that Thursday. It was around 2:15 in the morning when every light in the station flickered. Not just once. 3 times. The cash register rebooted. The security monitors went black for almost 10 seconds. Then everything came back online. I figured the storm outside had caused it. Rain hammered the roof. Lightning flashed somewhere behind the trees. I poured another cup of coffee and sat behind the counter. That's when I noticed something strange. Pump 6 had activated. Nobody was outside. The monitor clearly showed the pump ready to dispense fuel. I looked through the front window. Nothing. No headlights. No vehicle. No person. I grabbed the microphone connected to the outside speakers. Pump 6 is active. If you need assistance, please come inside. Silence. I reset the pump. 10 seconds later, it activated again. This time, I walked outside. Rain soaked my uniform almost instantly. The parking lot was empty, except for my own car. No engines. No footprints. Nothing. Yet Pump 6 kept displaying. Ready? I shut it off manually. As I turned to walk back inside, I heard footsteps behind me. Splash. 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 I spun around. Nobody. The footsteps stopped the exact moment I looked, trying to convince myself it was just rain dripping from the canopy. I hurried inside and locked the front door. When I checked the cameras, Pump 6 was empty. But on camera, someone was standing behind the building, just barely visible, tall, completely still. Watching the station, the image froze for half a second. When it refreshed, the figure was gone. I called my manager. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. I considered calling the police, but imagined trying to explain. Hi, I'd like to report someone who disappeared from my security camera. Instead, I kept watching the monitors. Around sundown AM, a rusty pickup truck finally pulled into the station. I have never been so happy to see another human being. The driver was an older man with a gray beard, wearing a faded hunting jacket. He came inside, dripping wet. Evening. You have no idea how glad I am someone stopped. He looked at me strangely. You alone? Yeah. He nodded slowly. Don't stay outside tonight. I laughed, nervously. Wasn't planning to. He didn't laugh back. Instead, he looked toward the windows. You hear anybody knocking? My smile disappeared. What? If someone knocks after 3? He leaned closer. Don't answer. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. He paid for his gas, bought black coffee, then walked toward the door. Before leaving, he stopped. Without turning around, he said, "If Pump 6 comes on again, ignore it." Then he got into his truck and drove away. I watched his taillights disappear into the rain. For several minutes, everything stayed quiet. Then, 3 sharp knocks. Knock, knock, knock. On the front glass. I jumped so hard I spilled coffee all over the counter. Someone was outside. A young woman, maybe 25 years old. Her clothes were soaked. Long dark hair covered most of her face. She didn't wave, didn't speak, just stood there. Looking down, I unlocked the door halfway. "Are you okay?" She slowly raised her head. Her eyes looked empty. "I need gas." "You can pay inside." She didn't move. "I already paid." Confused, I checked the register. No sale. No. Nothing came through. She pointed toward pump 6. "My car is waiting." I looked outside. There was no car, only rain. When I turned back toward her, she was gone. Not walking away. Gone. The parking lot was completely empty. I slammed the door shut, locked it. Every camera showed nothing. But the register suddenly printed a receipt. No customer. No payment method. No transaction ID. Just one line. Pump 6. I stared at the paper. Then something cold ran down my spine. The receipt, timestamp, was dated exactly 12 years earlier. The same minute. The same day. The station phone rang. I answered immediately. Static. Then, a man's whisper. "Don't let her finish pumping." The line went dead. And outside, Pump 6 started dispensing gasoline. By itself, gasoline poured from Pump 6, even though there wasn't a single vehicle parked beside it. The nozzle hung in mid-air, spraying fuel onto the wet concrete. I hit the emergency shutoff switch. Nothing happened. The pump kept running. I slammed the switch again. Still nothing. Then, without warning, the fuel stopped. The nozzle slowly swung back onto the holder, as if someone had carefully placed it there. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I wasn't staying inside anymore. I grabbed the station keys and ran to the electrical room behind the building. If I cut the power, maybe whatever was happening would stop. The breaker panel was old, covered in rust and dust. As I reached for the main switch, my flashlight caught something scratched into the metal door. "Don't look at pump 6 after 3:30. The words looked old, as though they'd been carved years ago. Before I could think about it, I heard footsteps again. Slow, heavy. Splash, splash, splash. They stopped directly behind me. I turned around. No one. But the air had become ice cold. I shut off the station's main power. Everything went dark. The buzzing lights, the refrigerators, the security cameras, everything. Only the sound of rain remained. Then, a woman laughed. Softly, right beside my ear. I spun around, nearly dropping the flashlight. No one. I sprinted back inside the station and locked every door. When the emergency backup lights came on, I noticed something sitting on the counter. A photograph. It hadn't been there before. The picture showed the gas station exactly as it looked now. Standing beside pump 6 was the young woman I'd seen earlier, smiling. Next to her stood a man in an old station uniform. I flipped the photo over. Written on the back was a date from 12 years ago. Missing employee last seen working night shift. The name underneath made my stomach drop. It was Daniel Harper. The same name stitched onto an old employee jacket hanging in the storage room. I suddenly remembered what the day manager had casually mentioned during my first week. The old night clerk disappeared years ago. He never said how. Only that nobody ever found him. The station phone rang again. This time there was no static. Only one sentence. She's waiting for someone to help fill the tank." The line disconnected. Then every emergency light went out. Darkness swallowed the building. Outside, a pair of headlights slowly appeared through the rain. An old blue sedan rolled silently to pump 6. No engine noise, no tire sound. It simply glided to a stop. The driver's door opened. The same young woman stepped out. She looked directly at me through the glass, then smiled. Not a friendly smile, the kind that tells you she's been waiting a very long time. She slowly raised one hand and beckoned me outside. I remembered the old truck driver's warning. Don't answer. Don't go outside. I stayed where I was. For nearly a minute, she didn't move. Then she frowned.